Hi everyone. Welcome to FiatVault podcast episode 6. And today we have Uchechi with us, and I'm really excited about this conversation. I've been looking forward to it, and as usual, FiatVault podcast is all about talking to immigrants about career tips and all the things that immigrants need to succeed in their careers abroad. And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, actually, because people come from different parts of the world and move to these developed countries, and everybody wants to get a good job. People, you see people write exams, do certifications, take courses, all because they want to end up with great jobs. And so we have someone here who moved from Nigeria to Canada, and she, got a job with Google Canada. It's amazing, and we invited her here, and we just want her to share with us her story. So, want you to share your story, Uchechi? Let me just talk to you directly. Want you to share your story and the lessons you've learned so far from the process of applying for the job and eventually getting the job. That's like, the whole essence of this conversation.
Summer.
And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure that all our, listeners and people who watch this video as well, I'm sure they're going to get so much from this conversation. So let's just, go right into it. I'm going to allow you to just
Okay.
tell us about yourself. I can't tell, even if I try, I think you are in a better place to tell us who Ichechi is, what you
Yeah,
do, and all that. So over to you.
thank you. So my name is Uche, and I am an ad tech sales and marketing professional. Um, it's going on 8 years now. So I've been in the industry for about 8 years, and I recently moved to Canada, and I currently work with Google as an international growth consultant. And basically, what I do is I help Canadian businesses, expand, scale their businesses, and increase revenue beyond Canada. I think, in summary, that's just what it is. So we leverage, of course, like Google's properties and data to help clients grow their businesses globally. So that's what I do at the moment. And I think professionally, that is me. Personally, I'm a wife, I'm a mom to a 3-year-old. She gives me a run for my money every day. So I fall under the category of moms who get a lot of guilt for wanting to, pursue their passions at the same time being a mom. It's really not easy because, it seems like as moms, you can't really get anything right. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you are, abashed for it. If you're a career-driven mom, you're also bashed for it, and it's more or less like you have to choose between your family and your career, which I feel is very unfair, but that's a story for another day. So yeah, I'm a working mom, and I would say one of my life's passions ultimately is to really connect with that audience of women. I have a huge passion for women to succeed in the career space, just professionally, and just to own their voice and who they are, the power that they have as women. I haven't started anything to that effect yet, so I don't have any blog, I don't have anything. It's just a passion of mine that I'm nurturing inside, and I know that when something eventually launches, I'll be, so excited to kickstart that. So yeah, that's.
Because as you were introducing yourself, I could feel your passion, like you really, it's something you want to do. And it doesn't matter that you've not started something yet.
Yeah,
I'm sure that that passion will lead you to start something eventually. So thank you
yeah.
for telling
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you for telling us about yourself, Uchechi. All
You're
right. So
welcome.
my next question is, you've been in Canada for I don't know how long, but you've been with Google for like 6 months now. So how has the experience
Yes.
been? What are some of the things that like one of the things people say about moving abroad and then working abroad, is the
Hmm.
the kind of culture shocks like you have to face, the workplace culture
Hmm.
shocks and all of those things. For someone coming from Nigeria to Canada, what are some of the things you've learned so far?
Hmm. Well, first of all, I'll say I am privileged to have started my career in Canada at Google. I mean, it's like, to me, working at Google is at the pinnacle of anyone's, if you're in tech specifically, your career. Then, moving and getting into Google ultimately was just like was a dream come true. I really, really want because I had a successful tech um, job, like career in Nigeria. I was with Eskimi for about 5 years. Totally loved the company. I devoted like everything to growing Eskimi within Nigeria. And then when I got my permanent resident, confirmation to move to Canada, I was like, I have already gotten a lot of experience with this, global programmatic company. I'm not about to go to Canada and start small just because like the tech world is very fluid, and so, regardless of where you got your skill set, you can move anywhere and still thrive. So, that was the mindset
Absolutely. Yeah.
that I had. Yeah, moving into Canada. So, I know I watched a lot of videos, a lot of people saying you have to manage your expectation. And I'll get to the question in a minute. I just wanted to give like a little context and background. So, I came in here just expecting the best already. I'm like, I didn't work for a local firm back home. I worked for a global tech company that was present in like multiple continents, Africa and Asia. So when I saw the international growth consultant role advertised on LinkedIn from Google, I sent in my application. Thankfully, I came, and I would say haven't been here 6 months. Of course, the I think one of the work culture shock that I got was how Google is an amazing place to work at. I mean, I know everyone, you hear it everywhere. It sounds pretty cliche, but it's truly an amazing company to work at. And one of the things that got me shocked was how multiple things. So I'll start with how patient everyone is to you settling in and getting on board. Um, I would say, contrary to Nigeria, when you're hired, you're expected to deliver right off the bat. Like you're hired, you said you have this skill set in your interview, you said XYZ. Now let's say you performed, and then you're already being measured from the very first day. The first month, your KPIs and all, they're already counting. At Google, you still have that. Of course, you're in the midst of excellence. Like everyone is just driven to succeed. So you definitely cannot come in and just be relaxed and say, well, everyone's giving me time. I will do what I want to do. You will still have that internal, especially if you're a driven person. I'm very driven. I'm very ambitious. So I think personally, I like to, I like to succeed. So, but I was just surprised at how patient everyone was. I came in with that Nigerian mentality of I need to show myself. I need to start, dropping things and hitting stuff. And then I joined like Q4 2021, and everyone was just like, be patient. You're trying your onboarding. There's just a lot of what's this word? And that's why it seems like I'm pausing. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the right word. Patience is what comes to mind, but everyone was just really patient with you to learn. First of all, it could be because of how big the company is. So Google to me is like if there if Google can have its own metaverse, I would call it that because it's like it's big and the company cuts across like you have to learn not just the scope of your role, but the Google work culture as a whole. So that was one thing that was very surprising to me. I had to learn to take it easy with myself. And, it was more or less like the fact that you're here is already proof of what you're worth. You don't necessarily have to come in guns blazing, wanting to like hit everything. So that was one. Two, I think another shock on what I've learned is just how, and I think if you follow me on LinkedIn, probably you have seen me comment a lot about the work environment.
Yeah.
It is so amazing. It's like recently there was this banter on Twitter about toxic bosses, and what I learned is here. I can't speak for the entire Canadian space because I haven't worked anywhere aside Google, but the amount of humanity that is present in the work culture is like I don't know, it's mind blowing, I would say. Like your managers, your colleagues, everyone is truly concerned about you, like truly concerned about you. So that's something that you don't necessarily, I got that thankfully because I worked at a Skimmy. I mean, I would rate a Skimmy top companies like in Nigeria. I had that experience, but like Google took it to a whole nother level where your manager really is concerned about what is actually going on in your life because that would actually affect how you show up to work. So that level of it was hard to accept. No, not accept, it was just hard to, confront like someone actually really cares beyond my performance just because I think they understand what the priorities are, that if you genuinely are okay in other aspects of your life, you would show up as nothing but your best at work. So I know when I joined, my husband actually had to travel back for business because he's still in Nigeria. It was tough. It was tough juggling. You know how the abroad life is. I was alone with my daughter. In Nigeria, I had the luxury of nannies and all that stuff. I didn't have that here. So every time I felt sad that I wasn't able to perform as I wanted to. But the level of understanding that I got from my, colleagues and from my manager, it was just like, I was shocked. I was shocked. So I'm like, if this is my new normal, then I'm I'm happy. I'm very happy. So I would say those two really stand out. And the third thing is how performance and merit based everything is. I said that because I sort of expected that to be the case, but it's just very I would say interesting, the just being face to face with it. And I like it just because you get to shine, you get to like grow in that kind of environment, because when it's all relationship based, you're only cultivating one aspect of yourself, which is maybe relationship management, learning to handle stuff, being diplomatic. That's good, that's a good skill, but you wouldn't learn how to grow in other aspects that would make you take your own space and own your work, own your career, like own what you're doing. So I would say those are the three things I have learned, or that came as a shock to me so far.
Beautiful, amazing. And I think even like for people who have not moved abroad, like if you are looking for a job or you've built maybe you're a part of a community of people, maybe in Canada, for example, you'd actually see that a lot. You'd see that desire to just be helpful, supportive, not trying to push you to do anything you don't want to do. Like
Mhm,
I currently
mhm.
belong to a community and I've experienced that a lot. And it
Yeah,
amazes me like how beautiful that is. So I can just imagine how it is for you for when you mentioned how that you had to take care of your child when your husband went back to
yeah.
Nigeria and your manager was just really supportive, the whole community was very supportive of you. And it just goes back to the point that you can't function well if something is not right at home, like or
Oh, yeah.
an area of your life is suffering. So at the end of the day,
Mhm,
it's the
mhm.
whole person that needs to be okay
Yeah,
for that
it's
person
the
to
whole
be okay.
person.
Yeah, it's the whole person. It's not just that person at work, because if that person at work is
Yeah,
okay at home, the work is going to suffer. So
yes,
really, really amazing.
that's true.
Those are
Yeah.
those surprising things you mentioned. They're all positive surprises, and like you said, if this is your new
Ye-
normal, oh yes, I'm sure you're
I'm
all
all
for
for
it.
it, man. I'm definitely all for it. Like I had COVID also like early in the year. So
Uh,
again, COVID, like I had to take multiple days off that I didn't plan for just because it was tough. And I was always judging myself, like I hope, the whole sounds weird, but like imposter syndrome, where you start doubting, like, are you sure they chose the right person? Are you sure? But you've just got to trust that they know what they saw. You weren't the only one they interviewed. They interviewed thousands of people, hundreds of people, possibly even tens of people. And if they decided to go with you, then there's something that you have that would be a value add to the team. And if this is just a phase of your life, this is not your life forever.
Whoever, yeah.
So if they're willing to, and I didn't lie, I didn't hide the fact that I was married, or that I just came into Canada, or that I had a toddler. So if they knew all this and still decided to go, then it means they saw something. So yeah.
Imagine,
Oh
because
man.
yeah, that's a big deal, because I can imagine even just the fact that you are moving from one country to another, not even Nigeria,
Hmm.
even if it's a developed country, the fact that you are moving into
Hmm.
a new environment and you are going straight to
Hmm.
start working, there's already going to be you're going to have thoughts, you're going to have doubts. Are you sure I can manage? Are you sure I can integrate into the system? Then when it now comes to the work itself, you start wondering, are you sure I can do this job well? Are you sure I can impress them? There's
Hmm.
that thing in most of us that wants to impress. So
Yes.
as a
Yes.
working mom, right? As a working mom, having to juggle everything, how do you manage imposter syndrome? How do you get out of it when it comes? when all those thoughts just come to you? How do you deal with it?
So to be very honest, I would say two things. I try to feed my mind with positive things. So I read and listen to a lot of audiobooks just because by nature I'm a very deep thinker and I really like, I think our minds are all very powerful, but I take mine pretty seriously because I know how powerful my mind is. And I know that having studied like the level of self awareness I have now, I know that I literally manifest whatever I think about. So I was reading a book, Winning the War in Your Mind. And this single um, line stood out that your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So anytime I notice that I am acting out of line, I always have to like stop and say, what am I thinking about? Because we literally always manifest what we think about and even how we think of ourselves, you know? So if you think of yourself as you're not good enough, you know, because imposter syndrome is literally you feeling like a fraud, like you're not supposed to be here and you tricked your way in here, right? But I combat that by reading good books and I combat that by reading the Word of God. It's just two hours that I have. I use the Word of God to authenticate who I am and from whom I came, and that gives me a boost to my step. It's like, you know, God created me. He knows He put me here. I'm not here by mistake. So if He orchestrated my steps to put me here, He's given me all that I need to succeed here. I start relaxing in that thought. And then secondly, when I combine that knowledge with books that really edify my mind, books that really, you know, speak to me and I've been really in a season of like growth and all of that. So those two things combined help me fight imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome is something that you will always face if you are faced with something new. Whenever you step into, for instance, if I said, okay, I touched on earlier that I have a passion for women. I just really, I personally feel that a lot of women are, now we see women growing, but I just have this passion to really get more women to dream bigger, to just be like, don't be scared to dream. It's your dream. You can dream as if I dream of being the United States president one day, I can. It's my dream. But if eventually when I want to start, say I want to start a YouTube channel or I want to actually start branding or creating a brand for myself, I think I will be faced with imposter syndrome. Because you start asking, you start having those questions like, and I think why that happens is because this is new, it's uncharted waters. Like you've never been here, you don't know what to expect. You most likely have seen people fail at what you're about to do. That could scare you, but how can you fight these thoughts? Because these are like external thoughts. Like you have no control over what you see, like, like what's happening to other people. But you actually have a control over what you feed your mind and your soul. So when you're having those thoughts, you've got to circle back and pause and then remember, as the man thinketh, so he is. So if you think that you're going to fail, if you have those fears, you literally will manifest them. So it is not that those fears will not come. It's not that you will have those doubt. Every day I show up to work and I pray and I'm like, I'm going to show up as my best self to the best of the ability and talent that God has given me, right? And that's the only thing I can control. I cannot control anything outside of that. So in my quest to show up as my best, I am hoping that I'm actually gonna, deliver on my KPIs and everything like that. Because again, like I said, that's the only thing you can control. And that's the only way I think I fight imposter syndrome. When I came, it was a lot because coming from a so-called third world country like Nigeria, you're already like, can you really sit in in the same space with all these people? Are you as smart as they are? All this kind of stuff. But then over time, you just realize that everyone, like you rightly said, people also came from Australia, Belgium, India, like different countries, right? So it's not necessarily about your country of origin, more about the state of your mind, like who you are, your intellectual capacity, and like who you are as a person. Because I know people always say, I don't know what the saying is, but I think the best way I can describe it is you can have someone who is in the village, but it's the same way how like a poverty mindset works, right? Some people could be poor literally, but they're not poor in their mind, right? So you could come from a third world country, doesn't mean your mind is third world, doesn't mean your scope or how you see things is third world, right?
Yeah,
And thanks to the internet, you don't even have an excuse anymore. Like you have the entire globe in your hand, like, from one small device. So yeah, I would say reading tons of books really helps. Self-help books, personal development. And then for me, the second armor would be reading my Bible. Like, ugh, nothing else. Nothing else does it for me there. Yeah.
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, like you said, as a man thinketh, so he is. You know,
Yeah.
the things you shared now, for me, I feel like they are really deep. And the reason why I say so
Mm-hmm.
is because that sentence about what you think is what you manifest is so true. And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it personally
That's
in
so true.
my life as well. Like times when
Same.
I've been very doubtful and times when I thought very low of myself, I would find myself in a certain situation. I would just know that no, it's because of what I'm thinking. The way I'm
And
thinking,
you start acting in
and I'm
that
still
way.
acting out
Like,
the thoughts. Exactly.
I literally had an experience like you rightly said. So I know it might sound too cliche, and I said it before. I was on a friend's YouTube channel. I said the same thing. Like, I literally had seen myself working at Google since 2018.
Mm.
I don't know how, but I remember telling my husband all the time that I'm going to work at Google. I don't know why I kept saying I was going to work at Google. And then, but did that stop me from doing what I was doing at my job? No, I still loved it. I still showed up as the best. I still wanted to keep hitting my goals there. But I just knew strongly in my heart that I was going to eventually work at Google, but I didn't know when, I didn't know how at the time. As a matter of fact, I hadn't thought of moving to Canada, never even dreamt about it. Like, it didn't even occur to me. So my working at Google was even still within the confines of Google Nigeria. I wasn't even thinking Google outside. So it's just that thing of constantly confessing we are all like creatures. The fact that we're created in the image of God means we also have that spoken power. God created the world by his words, and we literally create our world by our own words. So I kept saying it, and then I kept just envisioning being there. Like, it sounds very weird, but I envisioned the Google logo beside my LinkedIn name. I envisioned wearing this shirt. I envisioned having like a whole host of Google merch stuff. Like, I saw it in my mind, and whether it's what happened or not, I don't know. But just goes to my point. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. That was the only dominant thought that I had. Like, coming into Canada, I told my husband all the resources that I enrolled in to help you settle in Canada. They would ask me, where do you want to work? I said, I'm either going to work at Google or at Facebook or at TikTok or one of the big ad tech firms. That's all I said. Everyone was like, oh, okay, well, what if you don't? I'm like, no, I am. I just didn't want to think of what if I'm like, that's where I'm going to work. Like, I know I'm going to get in there. I know I can get in there, so I will get in there, right? So it's just, you've just got to be careful what you're thinking about. And recently, I found myself in a bit of like a victimized mindset. Earlier in the year, I was like, I was going through something, and then I realized that I was acting out what I was feeling about myself. I was, I didn't have a very healthy view of myself, and I realized I was treating myself the way I thought of myself. So I had to like circle back again. I'm like, hold up, Uche, what is going on with you? Like, why are you like thinking this down of yourself? Like, who are you? So I had to then start feeding my mind with positive things. I read like a ton of books, started like reading the Bible again, just reminding myself of who I am, right? So I think our words in our mind, we've got to be very careful what we think. If you accept that moving into Canada or any other country, UK or whatever, that you're going to have to start small or start from, a lower level just because people said so, don't be surprised when that's what you get when you get into that country. Like, don't be surprised, because that's what you've told yourself. And then immediately you've released that energy into, the universe. And then you start creating that thought you have of yourself. And so if you believe that, no, I'm made for the best and it's only the best I'm going to get, you're going to get the best. So, so yeah, that's it.
I mean, I, I, I'm speechless, really. And that's not a cliche. Like I'm just amazed. I'm in awe because
Yeah.
everything you've said, I can resonate with. One, two, they are so true.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
wrote down some thoughts as you were speaking. That thing about your
Mhm.
thoughts, your life. It's and I'm
Mhm.
going to just speak to like anyone watching this video right now. Like, are you an immigrant? Moving to a developed country like Canada or the US or the UK? Start with your mind. Like, don't believe that
Mhm.
can't you can't start big, or that you cannot get a
That's so
good job.
true.
You don't believe that you have to
That's
start
so
with a
true.
survival job, or that
Yes.
what else, you won't have a job for the next 6 months. I think you should start
Mhm.
with your mind.
Mhm.
Start working on your mind, because
Yes.
indeed
Yes.
what you think is what you get. You build your life,
Mhm.
the thoughts of your mind. um the second thing you
Mhm.
said about how when you were
Yeah.
still at Eskimi, you used to tell your husband that
Mhm.
I'm going to work, I'm going to one day I'm going to work with Google and all. And
Yeah.
you were like, you were still showing up to work and doing what you needed to do. And what just came to mind was
Mhm. Mhm.
where you are right now it's a preparation. Imagine if
Yes.
you were working in a maybe a local company, or in, I don't know, a local agency that is not global. It might have been more difficult for you to get
Mhm.
into Google, because at the end of the day, that
Mhm.
global experience was probably one of the things
Yes.
considered and all that. So
It
I
was.
think where you are right now is a preparation, and sometimes you need to even plan that
Mhm.
where you are. If your plan is to work
Mhm.
in a type of company in the future, then start working towards it from now. Don't settle for less.
Yes.
Don't just take
Yes.
anything. Start
Yes.
working, because those things prepare you for that goal you have in mind. Then the third thing you
Yes.
said that really stood out, for me, when you said, if you believe that you are going to start from, the lowest level from the scratch because people said so, then that's what's going
Mhm.
to happen to you. So I wrote down, I said
That's
what
what you're
people
gonna get.
said,
Yeah.
what people said.
Yes.
There are a lot of
Yeah.
things people say, when they know you are relocating. People who have been there before you,
Yes.
they
Yes.
tell you certain things, or you can't get certain
It's
kinds of
just
jobs.
projection.
Yeah. And
They project. They project their failures on you.
exactly, like, and you don't have to believe that. That does not have to be your story. Like, you can create your own story, really, and it all starts
Yeah.
with the mind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Uche,
It all
this
starts with
has
the
been so
mind.
lovely. Just give us like
Mhm.
a general overview of what the recruitment process was like. Did you have an interview? Did you have to do an exercise, a task, all of those
Of
things?
course, you have an interview. Of course, you have an interview. Even if you were handpicked by a recruiter, of course they would have to interview you. Like
Uh,
you don't get a job, like, hey, take, here you go. Okay, so because like I said, we have already established that everything starts with the mind. So immediately I got the notion that I was going to move to Canada in 2021. I think I got that confirmation sometime in November or December 2020. I started applying to jobs. Again, I positioned myself in my mind that I'm only going to get the best jobs. So it was weird, but I never applied to any other company aside from ad tech companies because I knew that that's where my skills were. That's where I have that's where I would shine the most. And so I was already in the tech world and I'm like, I'm going to just shoot for the stars. So I used LinkedIn a lot. I mean, I didn't do any job search outside of LinkedIn. I didn't use Indeed. I didn't use Glassdoor. I didn't use any of those things. I searched up job alerts on my LinkedIn stuff um, for jobs in Toronto, and I picked certain jobs, and I picked the kind of roles. You have all those settings at LinkedIn, and then I'm like, okay, okay. I'm like, this is the what's it called? These are the job descriptions that I know I would excel at, this area. And then this is I knew I was gonna live in Ontario, so I'm like anywhere within Toronto is fine and all of that. So I was always getting job alerts. Like if a job is posted like right now, I would get it. And so I only use LinkedIn for my job search. And I applied to Google multiple times, different roles. And yeah, I didn't get a call back. So this particular role was um And I had been on LinkedIn for a while, so I knew the importance of like networking. So I wrote the MD of Google marketing platform. I'm like, hey, I'm a professional. I didn't come in like, oh, I need a job. I'm like, I'm a professional. I'm coming to Canada. I would, appreciate any tips and stuff. Just a little chat with you to know how I can position myself in the market. Unbeknownst to me, he had already planned that when I came in, he would try to put me into his team. But because I wasn't there yet, he was like, when you come in, let me know. So it was when I joined Google, I had a chat with him, and he was like, he was already thinking about, putting me in touch with, someone within his team. So this is just to say, don't be afraid to reach out and really learn how to network on LinkedIn. You've got to brand yourself as someone of value and not like, hi, please, I'm coming to Canada. I need a job. Like those things are very off-putting, and people don't like that. So you've got to also. I did a lot of research into how do you write or reach out? How do you use LinkedIn for your job search, right? A lot of people do not know how to use that. So networking is a tool, but there are ways to it. You just don't network and add people. And of course, some people respond, some will not. But how you craft your message, how you brand yourself, how you communicate determines your response rate versus your, non-response rate. So, anyways, I finally saw this role and I started the recruitment process in July before I came into Canada, actually. So, I had the first round of interview, the phone interview in Nigeria. I had I had an app that gave me a Canadian number just because I knew I would be in Canada 2 weeks from that date. So, I can still remember how I was over the moon. First of all, I had already prepared my CV to fit into the Canadian template. So, and that this is one of the free services that you get from some of these pre-arrival services. Resources from the Canadian government. So I enrolled, did a lot of the courses, edited my CV. Literally, I spent 4 hours on that CV, couldn't sleep. I don't know. I started it, and the very next day I saw the opening for this role. And so I'm like, if I didn't edit my CV the night before, I literally would not have been prepared to apply. So, but anyways, I applied, and the recruiter got back to me within 10 days. I had my first round of interview, and then we moved to Canada. So suffice it to say that from when I got into Canada up until I got the job, I was just interviewing at Google, nothing else. I didn't get a call back from any other company. I applied to a couple of other tech companies, but didn't get a call back. So, yeah, I spent, I think the interview process was about 5 rounds. And eventually, yeah, it was 5 rounds.
Wow.
And it was it was 5 rounds. And so I got my offer. I think I got my offer like a month after landing into Canada. I got my offer letter. And
Amazing.
so I was to resume a month after getting my offer letter. So it was like, between starting the interview and actually resuming the job was 3 months, if you think about it. But actually, I already had my offer letter like ready. I was onboarding a month before I actually really started at the job, right? So that's how the whole process was. And yeah, I think I didn't want any other company as much as I wanted Google. So all the other companies were like, yeah, you got to cast your net wide so that at least even though you don't catch the fish you want, you can catch other fishes. But yeah, I think that's how everything went. And here I am.
Okay. Wow. That's 5 rounds. I
Yeah, the 5 rounds.
wow.
I literally didn't have, I would say I didn't have good sleep. I mean, up until I was done with all the interview, every morning was me waking up, checking my email. I had never been that close to Gmail in my life before. Like, I was like, I need to know if they had written me, like, did I pass? Am I on to the next round? It was just, but yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. That's my I mean, I think
I think
yeah, I think at the end of
Sorry, it also helps with my imposter syndrome because sometimes I have to remind
yeah.
myself that if you could go through five different people, you literally cannot scam your way through five people. Someone in that chair would have caught you. But and then I tell myself, if you're able to scam your way through five people, then that means you're really good at what you're doing. So you might as well deploy that same skill and show up at your job. But yeah, that was it. It was fine, and the interview process was really All the other interviews were so five, including the phone interview I had in Nigeria actually, but in Canada it was like four. And yeah, the it was all good. Like people, I think people sometimes over prepare for these interviews. I mean, it's your story, it's your experience. You lived these experiences. If you really contributed and showed impact at your job, I don't think it would be difficult for you to, show up at the interview and display what you did to actually, make the impact that you had at your previous job. So that's why I said you have to always show up in the light of who you want to be. Because if you take your current job for granted, you definitely will not be able to show impact, or you have to show up as who you want to be. I'll just put it that way. The same level of excellence that you're going to deploy if you're, say, the CEO of a company is the same level of excellence you have to strive for when you're like, say, an intern, a customer man, service man, whatever it is. It's the same level of diligence, it's the same level of dedication, it's the same, and so if you're called to speak about it anywhere, you will speak about it confidently because you did what you were supposed to do and even more. So yeah,
You can see me smiling. So the reason I'm smiling is because I always say that,
yeah,
have this owner's mindset, have that CEO's mindset.
yes.
Take
If
your
this is my
job as
business, would
though
I act this way?
I had exactly. Take your job, your role as though you are the owner of the company. So
That's right.
that's the way I see it, and it was just really nice to hear someone else say the same thing. Yeah, because sometimes sometimes when you're like that, people will be like your own is too much, or you're just
Hmm.
unnecessarily attached to your job. I don't think it's about being attached. I think it's about being excellent. Like I love excellent people. I feel like it's a spirit, it's an attitude, and it takes
That's
you
what sets you
places.
apart.
Yeah, it takes you places like. All right, so thank you very much for that. I think
Sure.
a couple of things you mentioned as well about preparing, the fact that you worked on your CV or your resume a night before the job opening came. I think that's a really important point. So if there's anyone, how they're watching this video, you're planning to relocate to a new country, start working on your CV or your resume, because the sometimes countries have different ways of presenting their
Hmm.
resumes. Like you don't use your
Yes.
Nigerian CV or Ghana CV or Pakistani CV or Indian CV to get a job in another country. So find out what
Yeah.
your resume should look like, and then work
Hmm.
towards doing that. Preparing
Yeah.
your resume for those jobs you're applying for. And again, what you
Hmm.
said about just focus, the way you focused your job search on the kind of roles you wanted. Sometimes, and it's still like going back to this mindset thing. Sometimes, because you are moving to a new country, you just apply for anything. And so at the end of the
Everything.
day, you get anything. So even
Yes.
from the job, I
Hmm.
mean, anything that is worth your time, if you're going to be sending your CV to any company, let it be something that if eventually you get that job, you'd be happy that okay, I got
Hmm.
a job like this. Not don't just send out your resume or your application, for the sake of sending it. So I think that's thing you said, those key points you mentioned are very, 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 very beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um
You're welcome. And just in line with that, I think I would just add this that I get a lot of people, you know, I want to get a job. How did you do it? I want to get a job. And sometimes maybe the simplicity of the process, it makes it difficult for me to answer because I'm like, I did what anyone wanting to have something a career would do. There was no special sauce apart from the grace of God, maybe, but there was nothing else that I did that was unique or that was different. And people are like, I want to get into Google. I'm like, okay, well, apply if you see a job opening, prepare yourself such that when the opportunity comes, you're able to, meet with it. So when people write me, Ochi, I want to get a job. How did you do? I'm moving to Canada. How did you get a job? I first of all ask them, what do you want? Like, what's your career goal? What and who are you as a professional? Those two things would definitely help you know, okay, this is how I'm going to start. If you don't know who you are, like I know I'm an ad tech sales and marketing professional to the core. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you want. I know where I want to be career wise. I know where I'm striving to become or to get to. It'd be difficult to just to actually conduct your job search in with a winning strategy. Those two definitions will help you say, okay, this is who I am. This is how I can show up as the best in any job. These are the jobs that bring out the best in me and that I will be able to show impact right off the bat because it aligns with my skill set, it aligns with my knowledge, it aligns with what I know how to do best. And so I'm going to apply to these roles first. You start with that, you max out that space before you think of doing something else, you know? So that's just what I want to tell people. Like, if you're trying to get a job, you need to define who am I professionally? What do I want? Where do I want to get to? Those three pillars would then determine what kind of companies do I apply for? What kind of jobs? And beyond me knowing the kind of jobs I wanted, remember I have been like reiterating the industry that I play in. There are lots of sales and marketing professionals anywhere, but you have them, some are in software as a service, some are in oil and gas, some are in banking, some are in the agency side, media agents, like there are multiple, places, but within my job scope, I can work in different industries, different companies, but I narrowed it down for myself because that's where I want to be. So for some other people, they're like, oh, well, I don't mind working at a bank. I would never work in a bank. I know, I don't like it. Nothing about it calls to me. And it might sound cliche, but this mindset that I have had it since the beginning of my career 8 years ago. It sounds weird, but even when I was doing my NYSC, when I was applying for jobs, I never applied to just any job. I studied mass communication, so I only applied to media firms, either print or broadcasting or advertising, period. Because I'm like, that's what I know. That's where I'm gonna shine. So, like I said, it's the same, which we discussed. You have to show up as who you want to be from the very beginning. I know when I first started my career, I had this friend who was earning 200,000 naira then, 2014 or so in a bank. She was working at a bank. And of course, NYC, everyone will always start with, banks then will give this entry level jobs. You're already earning well. But I mean, if you look at it 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you still literally will be same level of
Same
stress,
level.
more responsibility,
Yeah.
no growth, right? So I remember my friend then was earning that and I was earning 20K. I was like 10 times my salary, but 100 times, But I don't know. I loved my job at the time. I was doing what I knew how to do. So if money, someone, a friend of mine told me, "Oh, I'm saying that just because I was privileged." I'm like, yes, I'm gonna acknowledge my privilege here that I lived with my parents. I didn't have to think of rent. I didn't have to think of all those things, but I had to think of transport because my father laid his hands off of me from school after uni. He just like, you're your own.
Oh,
So I had to think, yeah, with 20K, I had to transport myself to Yaba every day, in a month. I had to buy clothes. As a working person, you're literally only eating dinner in your house if you even get to eat dinner coming back home after the traffic. So I would say maybe the privilege I had was I wasn't paying rent. And
yeah,
that was about, yeah, I had my family and all, but, so going too far, but summary. Just identify where you want to go, who you are, and where you want to be, and then it will help you with your job search as you move along.
absolutely. Thank you very much. I think that's a very important point. Be focused in your job search. Go after what you really, really want.
Different.
What you think that not what not even what to think, what you know you would enjoy doing, right? So, and just
Hmm.
trust
Hmm.
the process. Just trust that you actually get
Yeah.
called back. You get the job, rather than just apply for this role tomorrow, another one tomorrow, and next tomorrow. And then another thing I wanted to say
Hmm.
earlier was the point about networking. I think it's really important. I think that's one of the
Hmm.
smartest ways, to get a job. For people watching, you can actually go back to our last episode with Nisha Nicole and Mustafa Ansari. The title of the episode was networking skills for immigrants. And there you would see how the both of them got jobs in Canada within, okay, Nisha got a job within about 2 weeks of arriving in Canada just by doing what you did, reaching out to someone on
Hmm.
LinkedIn, and then and that helped her. So like networking, you know, reaching out to people, very important, very, very important. You can't do this on your own, like staying in your own world and all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Mhm. Mhm.
with this we've come to the end of this conversation. I had so many questions, and but somehow in the process of talking about one thing, you actually got into other things, and it's just been,
Yeah.
it's just been a very enjoyable conversation. And I know that everybody that will be watching this video after now, they are going to get a lot
Mhm.
of important tips from this conversation. So once
I
again,
hope
thank you
so.
so much, Uche. I really appreciate you coming
Sure.
here, joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
It's my
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you for joining us,
Agreed.
and thank you for to everyone watching this video. Again, this podcast is brought to you by FiatMatch, a peer-to-peer international money transfer marketplace. Launching very soon. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and just stay in touch with us. All right. Thank you, and see you next time.